Welcome to Women's Sports Weekly, where women's sports happens every day, but we talk about it once a week. I'm Carolyn.
And I'm Danielle. Women's Sports Weekly is a podcast where we discuss the latest news, explore interesting stories, and share our love for women's sports. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Follow us and rate us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You still have time to enter our holiday giveaway to potentially win an Everyone Watches Women's Sports t-shirt. To enter, it's very simple. You can head over to our Instagram and give us a follow at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Go to our giveaway post, which is pinned, tag 2 friends on the post who should listen to the podcast, and then repost the second slide to your own Instagram story. Once you do that, you can send us a screenshot of the posted story, and then you are entered to win. We will pick a winner on Tuesday, January 7th.
To close out 2024, we are going to give you a Women's Sports Weekly Greatest Hits Volume 1. We went through some of our favorite moments and we are going to share them with you. Some of you have been with us from the very beginning and some have joined throughout the year. So this is a great opportunity to dive into episodes you may not have heard or revisit some great moments if you have.
This episode will be audio only because more than half of our recordings from this year were only on audio. We will be back on video next week. Let's get into it.
Can we start with some funny ones, like you speaking French and pronouncing words in such a unique way?
I suppose.
From episode 3, Danielle showing off her French speaking skills. The PWHL kicked off in January. There are 6 teams: Minnesota, Boston, Ottawa, New York, Toronto, and Montreal, 3 in Canada and 3 in the United States. A lot of the people who play speak French, which I just think is so funny. I don't know why it's funny to me, but it is funny to me. There are so many French speakers because Canada produces some really great hockey players.
Oui, oui.
Oh my God.
You know, I took French.
Oh yeah. Hold on. What is the French that you know, Danielle, that you could take to Paris with you if we can go to the Olympics?
I forgot about this. Maybe they'll hire me. So my French name in middle school was Chandelle. So I would say, bonjour, je m'appelle Chandelle.
Oh my gosh. We're ready for the Paris Olympics.
J'adore Carolyn.
Oh, wow. We are ready for the Paris Olympics. Please, someone hire us to cover it. Danielle can speak French.
I'll work on that.
Okay.
From episode 26, where I highlight the accomplishments of Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone.
Oh, yeah.
To start us off, they saved the 400-meter hurdles women's for last. There was a very good reason for this. Defending gold medalist Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. I can't say her name. Cindy McLaughlin-Levrone. I literally can't. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone.
You said Levrone.
I can't say it. I don't know what to tell you. Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone. You got to say it then. I can't do it. On Sunday night, they saved the women's 400-meter... So on Sunday night, they saved the women's 400-meter hurdles for last, and defending gold medalist, I'm sorry, Sydney, but your last name is hard for me. So Carolyn, help me out here.
It's only taken us multiple tries.
I've tried 20 times already.
Her name is Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone.
Thank you. She certainly delivered.
From episode 20, Danielle telling us about the Phoenix Mercury. Mercury.
So the Suns vs. Fever game this year in Clark's WNBA debut on the league's opening night drew an average of 2.1 million viewers and peaked at 2.3 million viewers. This topped ESPN's previous mark of nearly 1.5 million viewers for Phoenix Mercury vs. Connecticut Sun game on May 22nd, 2004 in Diana Taurasi's rookie season.
Wow.
20 years ago.
20 years. And you saying Mercury is just one of my favorite things.
Okay, then.
Can you say it again for everyone?
Mercury.
Mercury.
I'm doing my best here, people.
I love it. I'm not going to try to change it.
It's that Jersey accent.
I don't know if we can blame this on New Jersey, but the Phoenix Mercury.
While we are on this train, we might as well include episode 24, where your family made fun of my swimming ability. I personally am not a very good swimmer, and I'm just amazed. I did a little tri sprint a few years ago and would have to train my swimming, and I just remember people looking at me in the pool like, is that girl okay? Like, not the best swimmer. So these people are amazing. Katie Ledecky, shout out for 4th Olympic Games.
And I want to tell a little story about you swimming.
No.
So we go down to the Jersey Shore with my family quite often.
People are going to think there's something wrong with me.
No, there's something wrong with my family. And my family on my mom's side is a bunch of really strong matriarchs.
Yep.
And we go into the ocean and we are in our 30s. But the moms come down to the ocean. The moms who are now grandmas come down to the ocean and they count the number of kids, adult kids and young kids, and make sure that they've got eyes on all the kids. And one year Danielle was in the ocean swimming.
This is so ridiculous. I am an athlete.
And my mom was like, can Danielle swim? She looks like she's struggling out there. I'm going to have to keep an eye on her.
That is so ridiculous and embarrassing.
So now every time Danielle goes in the ocean, she's got a grandma making sure that she is able to stay afloat in that ocean.
I don't have any fancy schmancy little, whatever you call it, strokes. I am a strong doggy paddler and it keeps me afloat.
I think you're doing great.
Let's get into some deeper parts of the show. Let's highlight a conversation from episode 14, where we describe our transition from athlete to non-athletic regular person.
We have a lot of players now. With basketball season ending, a lot of seniors are now transitioning into what I call NARP life. Do you know what NARP life is?
Non-athletic regular person. I'm
Yes.
very familiar with the term.
I think it's a really hard transition, and I wanted to talk a little bit about our experiences transitioning from playing a college sport to going into NARP life. So can you tell us a little bit about your transition from playing basketball and then going into a regular person life?
Yes. As hard as this might be to believe, I was not drafted for the WNBA after my college career.
Crazy.
I know.
Most athletes aren't.
I'm still a little salty about this. I should talk to Kathy Engelbert about that. Growing up, I played every sport I could. Mm-hmm. In high school, I played 3 sports. A lot of seasons overlapped with each other. I never really had an off season, which I lived for. I loved always being busy in my sports. It's how I made my friends. Yep. It's what kept me out of trouble. It's what I loved doing. So college basketball, I only played 1 sport in college. When you're a college athlete, that season is pretty much all year round, because even during the off season, you have training plans to follow. You're doing pickup. You have your strength and conditioning training. So I felt like my cup was always filled in that department. After my senior year, after our last game, it was a huge transition for me. First of all, I was in student teaching, which was very difficult. I was teaching full time. So I wasn't going to college classes my final semester of senior year. I was teaching, going in just like when every other teacher does, and teaching a full day, leaving, going to practice. Basically, what I'm trying to say is I was extremely busy, always had stuff going on. When basketball ended, I was like, what do I do now? Mm-hmm. Teaching is going to be my life.
And you're like, this teaching was fine when I got to go to basketball practice after, but is teaching really what I want to do now that it's just that?
Yeah. And it might sound dramatic, but I felt like a part of my life was ending because
it was.
Sports was everything to me. And again, wasn't going pro. So I had to figure out, how do I still get what I got out of sports as an adult? And it probably took me over a year to figure that out, to be quite honest. It's not easy. I somehow forgot how to work out. Like, I just didn't know how to structure my workouts. I didn't know what I wanted to do. What was I training for? I naturally made unhealthier decisions, was going to the bar more.
Especially when you have a little bit of school left and you're done playing, you're like, oh my God, I get to be a regular person. Let's party.
Yeah. But I went on like a 13-day bender to end my senior year. Literally drank for 13 days straight, felt extremely ill, and I was like, I can't live like this.
No.
Like,
well, I'm glad you figured that out.
Yeah, right.
Because some people would be like, I can live like this. So
oh my God, it was so bad. Anyways, it was really hard. I remember running my Tough Mudder 2 months after basketball season, which I already said I wasn't consistently working out. I literally felt like I got hit by a bus. I just really just felt a general loss.
And you go from having this very clear goal that is almost set for you in a way. Get prepared for basketball to go win games.
Yep.
And now it's like, get prepared for what? To go do what?
Yeah, it was really a challenge. Graduated college, like I said, it took me a while to figure out. Luckily, I was asked to join an adult softball league, which eventually we met at this adult softball league, which was really fun. But it was like, oh, I can still make friends playing sports, even if it's recreation.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I was training for this softball league. It was a bar softball league, but still, it was still fun to know, oh my gosh, I can still play games twice a week
And there's like-minded people out there.
Yes. So definitely met friends through that way. And you and I currently play in a softball league. So continuing that is really helpful. I needed to find some structure in my life. When I started teaching, I think I went 2 to 3 months with just not working out. And I remember thinking I need to get back to a structured workout because I just didn't feel good about myself. I feel like my brain doesn't function as well when I'm not taking care of myself in that way. So started to figure out what I wanted to do.
I feel like that's so common for athletes as well. They go from this very structured thing to something unstructured and then eventually have to find their way back because they know that the structure is really healthy for them.
Not for nothing, but your first year of teaching, I'm not a teacher anymore, but I was for a year, is horrendous. And I
shout out to the teachers out there.
Seriously, I don't know how you all do it, but would wake up at the crack ass of dawn to start doing work for school, get to school super early, go to school. I coached 3 sports my first year.
Oh my gosh.
Would go home and then had a grade and lesson plan for the next day. And I'd be up to like midnight. I was like, when do I work out? I don't know.
And making pennies all at the same time.
Literally. I don't even want to talk about it. So anyways, fast forward a little bit. I finally met you. Thank God. And
thank God.
Love you. Your sister was into running at the time. You were like, oh, my sister's running a half marathon. Do you want to come? I was into running in the past. I feel like since graduating, I just didn't find my groove with it yet. But I went to that half marathon. I think it was the Brooklyn half that your sister ran. And I was like, this is so cool. And I was like, I need to do this.
I don't think my sister knows this, so this will be fun for her to hear.
Yeah, she was my inspiration. She seemed so happy. And not too long after that, I found a half to train for, ran that half a few years in a row. I obviously stuck with running. I've run a few halves, a few full marathons since then. For me, being a very structured person and feeling like I need something to train for, training for races has been filling that cup and continues to do so at this point in my life, which has been really, really helpful. I can play in sports leagues. It's all fun, but I'm not training for anything. And I still don't feel like I'm getting that structure, whereas running gives me that. And I love it.
Do you think it's healthy? Do you think you have a healthy relationship with running now?
I think so. I think sometimes I'm a little too anal about getting things done a certain way, but I think I've gotten to a point where I know if I'm tired or feel something hurting, I can take a day off. I've been forced to take a week off here and there. So I think I have a healthy relationship. I can finally be in a place where I eat whatever I want. And I think about food as, okay, what's going to fuel my runs? And when I don't eat in a way that is going to fuel my runs, I feel it.
And do you think you're mentally better now than you were mentally with how you dealt with basketball?
1000%. I still have anxiety dreams about basketball. I have these dreams where I'm in the locker room, ready to go out to play the game. As the whole team is going out to play the game, I realize I'm in flip-flops or Uggs and I have to put my shoes on, but I can't find my socks and I can't find my shoes and the game's going to start and I'm supposed to be a starter. Anyways, I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We've talked about this. You've played college softball. You also were a 3-sport athlete. In high school, we played the same sports. What was your transition like from being a college athlete to NARP life? And not for nothing, you played at the Division I level. So very intense. You had a lot going on.
It was interesting because when I finished playing high school, I said, I'm done playing softball. I'm going to go to a big school. I don't think I want to play. I want to just be a regular person. I want to create my own thing for myself. I got to South Carolina and I was like, I miss it. I walked onto the team, made it onto the team. I never actually played. Playing is a strong word, but I was part of the team, did all the things that every other player did.
That's even harder, honestly, if you're grinding it out every day and not getting minutes or innings in a game.
In sophomore year, I saw the writing on the wall. I was like, I'm never going to actually play for this team. Is this what I want to be doing? I already had 1 knee surgery. Little did I know I needed another knee surgery on the way. I just knew that it was never going to happen for me. And I was like, let me cut my losses now and see if I can enjoy college in a different way. The transition for me was really hard though. It was hard for me because I still love softball so much. And honestly, I just did not have the talent in order to compete. I worked so incredibly hard and it wasn't enough. And it really messed with my head. So that transition off, my friends were still playing on the team. I had so much of my identity in sports. It's what I could talk about with other people. It's how I found confidence in myself. My confidence in myself at that moment was very dependent on external validation of how other people said I was doing, of what the stats sheet said I was doing. We talked about in episode 8 the value of self-esteem among athletes who play sports. I think for me, it personally changed where I had a lot of self-esteem while I was playing. And then after I stopped playing, I felt like I didn't know where to find my self-esteem because I couldn't measure myself up against anything. In softball, you have stats, you have practice every day, you have a lineup where you see right where you are. And I didn't have that. So I didn't know how to build up my self-esteem in a way that was healthy.
Sure.
So I felt like I had to rebuild of what do I even want? What is my life going to look like? I knew that I wasn't going to be a professional softball player. I knew that from the very beginning. When I was younger, I only planned to get to college. I really didn't plan after that. So I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was still very young at the time. It's hard for anyone to know what they want to do with their life. But at that time, everything was so controlled by schedule. We had lifts in the morning. I had class. We had practice or games in the afternoon. Everything was so scheduled. I had a nutritionist who was telling me what to eat. We had a sports psychologist that I could go and see and talk through things. To the minute, my day was planned out and all of that went away. What am I here to do? So I always like to plan things. I was like, okay, I'm going to study abroad. So my senior year, I decided to study abroad. But right before my senior year, my girlfriend and I broke up at the time. She was my first love, the person I came out with, and it rocked my world. On top of that, I had just stopped playing softball. And looking back now, I realized that it was a real loss of control for me.
Yeah, those are huge life transitions and life things that happened at that time.
Yep. And I went from having a regimen and knowing exactly where I needed to be and when, and then to not having one. I went from being in a relationship to it ending. And then I went right into Italy where I didn't know the language. I didn't know anyone there. And I just felt very out of control. And so I personally look for ways to control a very uncontrollable situation. And I think sports also gives you this false sense of control because you feel like you have a little bit of power over how you're moving and grooving. And you really don't.
No.
It gives you that false sense. And then I just felt very out of control. And then at that point, I really started to have a really strange relationship with food and was trying to control that in certain ways. And my mental health went way down. I dug myself into such a deep hole that it took years for me to unpack that, years of therapy to unpack the relationships that I had with other people, the relationship that I had with myself, the relationship that I had with food. How do I build up confidence within myself where I don't have to seek external validation in order for me to feel good about myself?
That had to have been really hard. I can't imagine in the middle of my college career quitting and being like, now what? Because you are so young. College kids are supposed to be adults, but you are so young. Now that we're X amount of years out of college, I am a completely different person. I didn't know you in college, but based on conversations we had, you're a completely different person. And to be in that and just have to figure it out. And then you go to a different country and you just figure it out. I can't imagine what that was like.
It was difficult. And one of my values now is community. And so my softball community got taken away. And I chose that. And I made that decision, but it was taken away.
Doesn't make it easier though.
Exactly. And then my relationship ended. And the community that I had within my relationship, all the friends that we had made together, that was taken away. And then I was plopped into a different country where I was forced to make community. And I did. It was just a really low point for me. And I'm so thankful for therapy and so thankful that I reached out to people and said, I need help. And I think that it's so important to do if ever you're feeling low or ever. Actually, I think therapy is so important anytime you're going through a transition. We talk about it all the time. We have gone to therapy separately. We've gone to therapy together. I know for me personally, anytime I'm going through a transition period, I need to be in therapy to make sure that I'm taking care of myself. Let's transition to one of our interviews. From episode 45, our interview with the 99ers sports bar owners, Annie Weaver and Miranda Spencer, on how the concept of the 99ers began.
point did you two look at each other and were like, we should drop everything else and open a sports bar?
Maybe a month after meeting each other. We did one practice together and I invited her to a tournament in Texas.
She's a quarterback. I'm a wide receiver.
Yeah.
We had a pretty instant connection and she was like, you should come to this tournament.
Might be crazy, but we're going in 2 weeks. So,
And I was like, I think I can swing this. We were driving to our tournament. Miranda was driving and I was in the back of the minivan and she was looking through the dad mirror at me. I don't know how it came up, but I was like, I've got this crazy idea. When the sports bra opened in Portland in 2022, my brother lives in Portland. And I was like, I have to go to this bar. I was visiting my brother, but really I was going to see the bra and loved it. I was like, this is such a cool concept. We need more of these. I would love to do it. But I was like, I know nothing about business. At the time I was teaching. So I was like, I can't do this. And I was like, I definitely would want to do it with a business partner who would be the right fit for a business partner. And I met Miranda and I was like, I think she could be it. So I pitch it in the minivan.
In front of like our entire team. And everyone's like, y'all are crazy. And it's so funny to like look back because we still play with some of them and obviously we're still friends with them. And they're like, you guys are actually doing it. And we're like, yeah. I'm looking at her through the mirror and I'm like, are you serious though? Because I cannot tell. Yes, I'm intrigued. I'm interested. That happened in May and we created the LLC in July.
Yeah, that was in May. And then in June, I was like, hey, if you're serious about this, because I am, we should probably sit down and talk about what would this look like? Is this realistic? Would we actually be good business partners? We need to know each other better than we know anybody else.
Yeah. And we knew each other for like 2 months at that point.
We're like diving deep into our deepest, darkest secrets. Hey, this is everything about me. Do you think you could actually work with me? And then we wrote a business plan and started an LLC.
God. It was a journey. It still is a journey.
Let's get into episode 18, where we talk about our mental health journeys throughout college.
I want to talk a little bit about our own experiences with mental health in college. And I think for myself, if I could change one thing about my college experience, it would be my mental health. I don't think at the time I knew my mental health was bad. I knew I had anxiety. Like I had talked about anxiety with my therapist in high school. But I don't think I fully understood how my anxiety was affecting my performance. I couldn't make that connection. Now looking back, I could, and this has always been a problem for me. When I'm in it, I can't really see it. But when I'm able to look back, I'm like, oh, that's what was happening. And so now my work is like, how do I notice it faster? And that's part of resilience, right? Like your ability to bounce back. Because if I can notice it faster, then I'm going to be able to recover faster. The other piece of it is I walked on at South Carolina. I felt like I was lucky to even be there. So I just didn't want to be a problem. I didn't want to talk about my mental health. I felt so lucky to even be in the position I was in. I was just like, I'm just going to deal with this internally. I'm going to do what I need to do because I do not want to be seen as the problem child on this team.
That had to be really hard.
And I just think mental health is something that everyone needs to deal with.
Yeah.
And it's just not talked about enough. Luckily for me, I went to our sports psychologist. We had one.
That's great.
Shout out Dr. Cusack, the best sports psychologist in the world. Made me want to be a sports psychologist. Obviously, I'm not. But I also just need to shout out my parents who have always been so supportive of me going to therapy and seeing that therapy was actually really good for me. So I was comfortable enough to reach out to her. But I know that a lot of people aren't. And a lot of people are worried. I've heard stories before of they're worried that the sports psychologist is going to tell their coach what's going on, share information, that it's going to affect their playing time. Like it is a real fear. And sometimes it happens.
Yeah, I'm sure it does happen in some cases, which is not right. And it is very unfortunate.
For me, there was just so many things that I was dealing with in college. I came out in college. I was transitioning from a kid to an adult. I was navigating my relationship with my parents from kid to adult. I was planning for my future. That most of my sessions with the sports psychologist were not focused on the sport. They were actually focused on my life. But I do think that in order to even have gotten to the performance side, we had to work through all of those hurdles. So I don't ever think that my mental health was at its peak or that it was helping my performance in any way. I think I was at the very beginning stages of beginning to take care of myself and what that looked like. How was your mental health for you?
I definitely struggled throughout high school and college. I think high school, there were things happening that weren't necessarily related to the sports I was playing, but
it never
impacted everything that had to do with sports. And at the time, I just put so much pressure on myself to perform well. And sometimes I think that added pressure took away some of the joy of the game, unfortunately. There were times where it was less fun just because of the pressure I was putting on myself, especially basketball in high school, because that was my main sport. I knew I wanted to play that in college. So I just wish I was able to talk about it more openly with someone, because I don't think I understood what was happening inside my head and how to help myself, basically. So I think the transition to college was really difficult because coming from high school, was starting on all my teams, and freshman year of college basketball, I rode the bench for a full year. And there were a lot of times where I thought I should be playing over certain people. I definitely, to the one point you were mentioning of how I handled the situation, I definitely talked about it to people and vented about it, which looking back, I wish I didn't do things the way I did sometimes.
But you need to talk to someone about it too. It's hard because you do need to talk about it. And it's like, at the end of the day, what was the solution then? Was the solution like, I'm just going to talk about it and just vent? Or was the solution like, I'm going to talk about it and then here's how I'm going to address the issue? And that's where I feel like I was missing. I wasn't like, and here's how I'm going to address the issue.
I think my way of addressing the issue was like, what can I do to make myself better? So I need to be put in, and eventually that helped me. But I think it was just a really hard struggle to transition to not playing and not being the best on the team and things like that. So I would say that was hard. Sophomore year didn't start, but definitely started playing a lot more minutes. And then junior and senior year, I started, but junior year, I struggled so much
with your mental health.
Yes. I lacked confidence. So even though I was starting, I spent that whole season wondering when the starting position was going to be taken away from me. I don't think I enjoyed a single moment of my junior basketball season because I was just worried it was too good to be true.
Yeah.
I was not fortunate enough to have a sports psychologist. I was not fortunate enough to go to therapy in high school. Like, I wish I went as a kid and in high school. I think I would have been able to recognize certain things so much earlier. And I didn't start going to therapy, as you know, until I was an adult. Now I know I have OCD, which I don't talk about a ton with a lot of people. You know, I struggle with it, and OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. And I don't necessarily so much struggle with the compulsive part, but the obsessive thoughts.
Yeah,
so
and they're intrusive.
My entire junior season, I obsessed over this idea that I was not good enough. So-and-so was going to take my spot. The coaches were talking about me behind my back. This is sick, but every time the coaches would be at the center of the court before practice when we were stretching, talking, I thought they were saying something negative about me.
Like they were just going to take
that's
you off.
sick. And I could
you were
not
sick.
Get out of it.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, oh my God, Danielle, why?
I know.
Like, it's
but you
just
can't
crazy.
don't beat yourself up on top of it.
I know. Yeah, no, but now I can say, oh, those were intrusive obsessive thoughts.
Yeah.
Oh, I really struggled with anxiety. I don't think I understood what anxiety was in college.
Yeah. And now you have tools in your toolbox, right?
But I don't think I knew those terms. Luckily, senior year, I had a lot more confidence, but junior year, I wish someone could have just shaken me and been like,
I know.
You are here because we believe you're supposed to be here, but you need to believe that.
Yeah.
I just wanted someone to tell me you are here for a reason. Yep. And I don't know if I ever necessarily got that. It's to no one's fault. It's just like looking back, I can say that's what I needed in that moment.
Next up from episode 22, what pride means to us. Let's get into why pride is important for us.
Yes.
I'll get into a little bit of my story, and then I would love if you could share yours too.
Yeah.
I came out when I was 19. I was very nervous to come out. Growing up, I knew that something was different about me, and I knew that I was definitely gay. And I say gay, and I say bisexual, and I say pansexual. Those are words I use to describe myself. Everyone uses something different. For me personally, I use the words interchangeably. For others, it's very important that they just have one word that describes them. And I know you like to use different words. I'm just going to use gay today. I knew I was gay, but I would try to convince myself that I wasn't. This was in early high school. And even before that, even before high school, I remember I used to make collages. I was really into surfing, and they would all be of women. And my brother would come and look at the collage, and he'd be like, why are there only girls in bikinis on this? And I just, now looking back, I'm able to be like, oh yeah. But it's just interesting how it's always been there. For a very long time, I just tried to convince myself that I wasn't. I went to college and I started playing softball. It wasn't because softball made me gay, although
Are you sure?
Yeah. Although I think my mom thought that. But when I got to South Carolina and I was part of the softball team, I got to interact with a lot of the other different athletes from different sports, and it was just accepted.
Yep.
It was just this really cool environment. And being in South Carolina, which is a whole other story, for South Carolina athletics, the straight people were okay with you being gay. Some of the gay people were out, some weren't out, and that was totally okay. And it just felt like this really, really great environment. And it showed me that I could have a life like this and it could be okay. I was looking at it and I was like, oh, they're okay. They came out and they're okay. And they're living their life. And they're actually living a life that's really amazing and one that I want. I decided to come out when I was 19. I started dating someone at South Carolina and I was like, I'm not going to hide this. And I need my parents to know. I felt very close with my parents and my dad was great. He was the easiest person to tell. And with my mom, it definitely took some time. It was really hard for probably 2 years. And some people, it's much longer than that. I feel like, and I can only speak from my point of view of what I was experiencing from that time. And my mom may have a different experience of what she was experiencing that time. So I'm just going to speak from my reality. And my reality was that she had a really grand idea of what my life was going to look like. It wasn't the idea she had in her head. She also felt that she was very close to me, and she was. We were very close, but I was lying to myself the whole time, hoping that it wasn't true. And so how was my mom supposed to know when I was trying to hide it from myself? I think she felt, how did I not realize this? And I feel like definitely older generations have this idea of what a gay person is and what they look like and how they move. And that just wasn't what I was necessarily doing at the time. We are great now. And she loves you. We had to have a lot of conversations and she was open to having them and she was open to listening. And I think that's such a great part about my mom is that she is open to listening. Although she might not understand, she is always open to listening and always open to having the conversation. She never, ever shut me down. That gave me a pathway to be like, I can continue to have this conversation with her because she is actually open to having it, which I think is very important. I had so much internalized homophobia. I remember when I first came out, I was like, if I could change this, I would. If I could not be this person, I would. But unfortunately, I fell in love with someone.
Unfortunately?
Well, that's how I felt at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I fell in love with this person and now this is who I am. And if I could change it, I would. I don't feel that way anymore. But going to the Pride Parade, I was like, I don't need to be like, these people are just living their lives, having joy about it. Like, why am I feeling so guilty about it? But I think I knew that it was hurting some of the people around me. I was just like, if I could not be gay, I would choose not to be gay. And that's really sad for me to say, because I was part of this amazing community and college athletics really allowed me to see that amazing community. It was really important for me to see both in the athletic field and in the Pride Parade that you could have a really rich life. You could do anything that you wanted in life.
I'm sorry you felt that way. I know how that feels and it's not a good feeling, but can obviously see you've come a long way from that and just happy you were able to.
I feel bad that I ever said that I wish I was different. Now looking back, I just am like, oh, it's so sad, but this is why Pride is so important because my sexuality of who I am now has led to some of the most amazing friendships, has led to this amazing community that I would never get to be part of where people are truly themselves. Now I have this amazing partner, an amazing relationship. If I was not who I am, I would not have this between you and I. And that would be horrible, right? Pride and all of this has led me to this spot where I get to be truly who I am and find an amazing partner who I would have never found if I wasn't truly myself. The one thing that I want to just end with is for a long time, I could not tell myself I love myself. I'm going to get upset. I just struggled to do that for so many reasons, not being able to love myself. And then I did a lot of work and I started to tell myself I love myself, but I didn't believe it. But I was just trying to fake it till I made it. I'm going to try to get my shit together so that I don't sound crazy. Now I can finally say that I do love myself and believe it. And to me, that's the importance of Pride. That's for me why Pride is important on a personal level. But I would love for you to tell us about why Pride is important to you.
Well, first of all, very well said. And thank you for sharing. Obviously can see you got emotional and understand where that comes from. But I'm just happy to see that you're able to truly say you love yourself and actually feel it.
Yeah. Thanks.
Pride is definitely important for me for a ton of different reasons. I think at the end of the day, what I look for most is I just want to be accepted as others are accepted and treated equally to my counterparts who may be straight or don't identify as gay, because I think at the end of the day, that's all anyone wants. I came out after meeting you when I was 22 years old. So you said 19. Somehow when I came out, I felt like it was light years behind you. You came out as a freshman in college and I met you after college. It felt like a lifetime of years under your belt ahead of me is what it felt like.
It wasn't, right? But I was at the point where my family was very accepting, where I had multiple girlfriends by that point. And so everyone was on board.
And I do agree with a lot of the things you were saying. So growing up, I could think of a million times where I felt a certain way or knew something was there and I just kept suppressing it. I got so good at lying to myself that I truly believed, oh, it's just not an issue because it's not true. There would just be feelings that came up, or I don't know how to explain it. It was just things that were pointing, are you gay? And it was like, no. Yes. Suppress. There were always comments growing up, whether it be just in school or by family members, that was a reminder like gay equals bad. Like that's truly how I felt. I was like, too many people don't accept it. Can't be you, won't be you. You go to church, like all these things.
Yeah. You just like weren't even letting it enter your head.
Exactly. And every time it did, it was like, I just would pretend it didn't. Yeah. There were relationships that I was in growing up with guys, and I just remember feeling like there was something really wrong with me because my friends would talk about their boyfriends and the excitement they had and they just wanted to be with them. And I thought to myself, I don't feel any of that. Like I just played along because I was like, I don't want people to think I'm weird or what is wrong with her. And I didn't really feel like there was anyone I could talk to because my high school, maybe there was one gay person who was out, and college, there were more people who were out, but I just wasn't comfortable enough yet to get there. But just to be able to be surrounded by a few more people and to see they're okay and happy, that definitely helped, but I just wasn't there yet. I wasn't ready. I hadn't met anyone that was like, okay, it's time to explore this a little bit. So I just kept living my life as I was. And then after college, a whole year after college, you walked along into my life during our softball league, and these feelings started to come up again. I was like, okay, these are here to stay. There's no suppressing this. And I just realized it was something I was going to have to face.
And did you know I was gay at the time?
I did not, which is so interesting. I remember stalking your Instagram and I was like, I just could not figure it out.
Truth be told, your gaydar is
it's rough. Really bad. It's really bad. But I just knew that you and I got along, and I knew I wanted to spend time with you and be around you and talk to you. And whether that meant we were just going to be friends or not, I didn't really know at the time.
Yeah. Meanwhile, my sister played on the softball team we played on, which was a bar league. And I wasn't able to go to the first few games. And she came home one day and she was like, there's a girl on the team. I think you're going to like her.
And I was like, just so funny to think back to that time.
I know. She called it from the very beginning.
And you and I truly just were friends in the beginning and just chatted and texted a lot, and finally
you thought we were friends. I knew the whole time. I was like, I'm definitely into this person. I'm not sure if she's gay. I'll figure that out later and we'll see where this goes.
Yeah. And then after a few months of texting and then finally hanging out in person, and we just opened up to each other, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to hide this. I think probably after a month of us seriously talking and being open with each other, I was like, I need to come out to my family because I'm very close with them. And this is not something I want to hide. I don't want you just coming over, hanging out as my quote unquote friend.
And I had made it clear to you, your coming out process is your coming out process. And I said, for me personally, I'm not going back into the closet.
Yeah.
I won't be lying. That's just something that I'm not willing to do anymore. But you have to do exactly what you need to do in order to take care of yourself and your family.
Oh, so coming out was so much fun. Luckily, my friends were great. It was just so easy with them. And it wasn't easy for me to say it out loud because I was just super scared. It was definitely really difficult with family. I, growing up, thought my love with my family and their love for me was unconditional. And I learned in some of those moments that it felt more conditional, which was really hurtful. And I think, I don't know if it was a few years or I don't even know now at this point. We've been together, 9 years?
Yeah.
So it's hard to remember timelines. But I just remember not wanting to be around them because I was so uncomfortable and I just couldn't stand that feeling. And you had been out for a few years already, so your family was accepting. And I was like, why wouldn't I just spend more time with them?
It was hard because I had been past that point when we met with my family, and the response from my family was different than the response from yours. I knew it was going to get better, but it was difficult. We both are very close with our families and know our families love us. And then to go through that, it was really difficult to watch because I could see you would come on dates with me and you would just have been crying. And I'd be like, hey, what's going on? And you were like, it's fine. And I'm like, it's fine. You just came out of the car crying. But we were early in our relationship. So I think you were trying to put on, I'm good with you. Like, I want to be happy when we're together. But I could just tell that it was a struggle. Yeah.
But that was so really hard just not spending that time with my family. So definitely a lot of conflicting things. My family has obviously come around and we're married now and everyone was at the wedding and so supportive and happy. And it honestly just very thankful for that. But there were a few years that were really rough. And I think pride is just a great reminder to be authentic yourself, and for me to be authentically myself and to be honest about who I am as a person and honest about who I love, because our relationship deserves to be shared with other people. We also need to include episode 40, where the founders of the WNBA club, Dia and Lindsay Vanderfurkis, shared how they met.
And so when we got to high school, then we finally ended up playing softball together. But all during this time, we were just friends and super naive to being out or even knowing anything about the queer community or anything growing up, and just grew up being best friends and playing sports.
We later on found out that when we started dating that we were in the same preschool class.
When did you start dating? At what age?
When I turned 21, and Dio was also 21.
I love that.
So funny. So you have a picture of you two in preschool next to each other.
It's in our hallway.
Yeah, we do have a picture of it in our hallway. We actually use this as our save the date for
That's
our wedding.
amazing.
Stop it.
That is amazing.
Who has the pigtails?
That's me. And then we just both look very angry, which we are.
Because picture days and having to wear super girly clothes was the worst for us.
We both look just very ornery, very
love
ornery.
that so much. Let's get into episode 10, where we talk about fell running and the Barkley marathons. This one was a fan favorite, so give it a listen. What is an ultramarathon?
Okay. So basically an ultramarathon is anything over a marathon. So a marathon is 26.2 miles. There are races that are like 50K, which is in the 30-mile range. And then there's 50 milers, 100 milers, and then some even go beyond 100 miles.
Okay, tell us more about it.
Jasmine Paris, who we're going to focus on today, 40 years old, from Midlothian, Scotland. She has become the first woman to complete the Barkley Marathon's race with 1 minute and 39 seconds to spare. So she became known for her fell running. I had no idea what fell running was prior to looking into this more. So fell running is traditionally a British sport, and what it means essentially is running and racing off-road.
So trail running.
But it's a little different. Similar to trail running, significant gradient is climbed. You're climbing mountains essentially. And it's not so much about speed, but you'll have to train yourself for unpredictable weather and terrain. What makes it different is it's known that you're running without a clear path. So whereas trail marathons,
there's a trail.
And trail ultra marathons, you have a trail and you have marked territory. There's markings of where you need to go. But fell running apparently is known for you're running without a clear path. And
this is my worst nightmare. That would be my worst nightmare. Not even knowing where I was going.
Just wait until you hear what I've learned. In 2019, she became the first woman to win the Montaigne Spine Race.
Sounds horrible.
Which is a 268-mile ultramarathon in the United Kingdom. 268 miles.
What is she running from? Are those little animals at the vet causing her so much stress that she needs to run in the wilderness?
She broke the previous course record by 12 hours, despite stopping at checkpoints to pump breast milk for her newborn at the time.
This is not a real story.
Yes. So that was a different race. So now let's get into the Barkley Marathons. This race she attempted in 2022 and 2023, but did not finish. In 2023, she became the first woman to reach the 4th lap since 2001. She is now one of only 20 people to complete the Barkley since it was extended to 100 miles in 1989. She was one of 5 to finish this year out of 40 people who entered. She was the only woman. What is the Barkley Marathons? This is an ultramarathon trail race held each year in Frozen Head State Park in Morgan County, Tennessee. The course varies from year to year and consists of 5 loops, 20 plus miles, so around 20-mile loops to get you to 100.
And they do the loops in order so that you have somewhere to stop.
So there's no checkpoints along this loop. The only checkpoint is at the start and end of each loop. And you have to do 5 of those in under 60 hours. So I mentioned earlier she finished with 1 minute 39 seconds to go. A little more about the race. It's known for being extremely difficult and very peculiar.
Yeah, no shit. I mean, this is just
It
so
began
ridiculous.
in 1986 after its founder, Gary Cantrell, learned about the prison escape of James Earl Ray, the man who assassinated Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So he escaped prison. He was out in these woods for more than 50 hours, but only traveled 12 miles. So the founder thought in his head, in 50 hours, I could have ran 100 miles. This is how this came to be.
This is getting more and more wacko.
To be honest, I've never heard of this race until this weekend.
Because no one finishes it.
But let me tell you more. The rules for entering this race are cryptic, quote unquote. The Barkley doesn't advertise, and it asks applicants to submit an essay explaining why they want to compete, and they have to pay $1.60 as an entry fee.
This is a joke. This sounds like Fire Festival.
It doesn't have a race website and doesn't post the date of the race. People have to be like in the know. They probably have to know people to know how to sign up, how to enter. Paris, she had ran it 2 years prior, so she obviously was already in. This has been something she's been wanting to complete. So another thing, on the night before the event, runners have to stay alert for the sound of a conch shell.
Conch.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
I think it's conch shell.
Okay.
All right. Someone can let us know. That signals 1 hour until the race begins. For anyone who has run any type of race of any distance, it is nerve-wracking. The night before, it is hard to sleep as it is, and that is when you know what time the race is going to start. These people are sitting around waiting for the sound of a shell to signal that they have 1 hour until the race begins.
This sounds like a cult.
When they take their marks, Cantrell signifies the start of the race by lighting a ceremonial cigarette.
So the person who started this, right?
The founder of the race, correct.
Lights a cigarette before it's... This is a cult.
This is what I'm
This
learning.
is a cult. Go ahead.
As the race advances, so while the runners are running their loop, again, there's no one out there. There's no crew team out there. There's no checkpoints. It's just at the beginning and the start. Runners must find books that are scattered along the course and remove a page that corresponds to their assigned number to prove their progress.
I have no
So
words
as
anymore.
you hear more about this, you can understand the 60-hour time mark. Mm-hmm. There is over 60,000 feet of ascent and descent, which is twice the elevation of Mount Everest. And they're finding books and ripping out pages.
So they're on a trail that's unmarked. They don't know when they're running, but when they do know they're running, a conch shell will be blown. Then a cigarette will be lit. Then they can start. Then while they're running through woods that have no path and they're running uphill, covering over 60,000 feet in elevation, they're looking for books and they're taking out pages. This does not even sound real. I cannot believe this woman finished it.
She has attempted the past 2 years. She has gotten through a big chunk of the race, as I had mentioned earlier in the past, and still came back to finish. I read that she really wanted to inspire other women and young girls to believe they could do things like that. So I think there's a greater motive there. And obviously she is very motivated.
If they're only paying $1.60 to get into this race, I can't imagine that they're winning any prize money at the end.
I don't think so. I will definitely be doing more research on this because now I'm really curious
to learn
gosh.
more. In 5 years, Danielle and I are going to be at this race and I'm going to be lighting cigarettes.
No. You know me. I am way too scared to do anything like that.
All props to Jasmine Paris.
Women are just amazing. From episode 41, our interview with the University of Denver women's basketball head coach, Dosha Woods, on why she was kicked out of practice.
Why did you get kicked out of practice? That's what I want to know.
You know, honestly, I was such a hothead. Our high school gym is called The Dungeon. Topeka High School is the first $1 million high school built on the west side of Mississippi. So it's this historic building, but the bleachers are like endless. And so I was always one of those players, if we all are teammates and you keep making the same mistake in practice, sub out of practice, because I'm not going to keep running for you doing the same thing. And I'm supposed to be on the baseline when the buzzer goes off, and I just didn't feel like it, because if this was a game, like, you'd sub this person out. I wasn't there. She said a few choice words. I said a few choice words back, and I knew it was wrong, but it was like I was trying to prove my point, and she proved her point and sent me home. I was like, good God. And I think I've always been one of those leaders. And so it was more embarrassing than anything, because it's one thing like playing hard, but I've always prided myself on not being disrespectful. And that day I was, but she was more like a second mom to me. We are still super close to this day. My time here at Denver, our Summit League tournaments in South Dakota, and she drove up last year, hasn't missed a game in Kansas City. And our high school teammates tease us about it all the time. And now it's funny when we talk about our current team here, I see the same relationship I have with one of our players. And so it's just comical. Now it's funny. It wasn't funny then. Now it's funny.
Let's get into episode 13, where you describe meeting your idol, Candace Parker. So in every Final Four, they do this thing called Tourney Town, and it's pretty much just an exhibit set up for children where they have events going on.
There's adults in there too.
Well, yeah, we are the adults in there.
There's other adults in there.
There are adults with their children in there.
Okay. I love Tourney Town. I somehow missed Tourney Town last year in Dallas when we were at the Final Four. So this year I knew I needed to get back there.
How many times did we go?
Did we go 3 times?
At least. And nothing makes you happier than Tourney Town. It is your Disneyland. I am not going to take that away from you. You turn into a kid, and it's the cutest and just the best thing ever. One of the multiple times we were there, we saw Candace Parker was going to be in the AT&T area.
Oh, you know, as soon as I saw that on the screen, I took a picture of the time and date that she was going to be there. I made it clear to everyone, I need to go to this.
We did, and we went right before the South Carolina-Iowa matchup before the final, and we got in line and we waited for about 45 minutes. Candace Parker came out the door
that we were standing right next to. And if anyone does not know this, Candace Parker is my longtime idol since a kid. When she was playing at Tennessee and I was in high school, I was obsessed with her pretty much. Like, I
mean, not pretty much. You were obsessed with her. You wrote her Facebook messages.
I was obsessed with Tennessee. I was obsessed with Candace Parker. I was obsessed with Pat Summitt. I painted my room orange and blue.
When I met you, your room was
still that color. But before you met me, I also had a Tennessee lampshade above my bed. I had Tennessee basketballs on different sizes that I won at Seaside one year. My sister Amanda made me a sick Tennessee blanket that I even brought to college. Anyways, my obsession for Tennessee when Pat Summitt was there and when Candace Parker was a player ran deep, and continued to love Candace Parker when she went to the league. Yeah. So when I saw that she was going to be there, I was like, I never in a million years thought I'd get to meet her.
And so it was a meet and greet thing. It was great. She walked out and all of us, just our jaws dropped.
She's so tall. It's crazy.
She's so tall, one. I knew she was pretty.
Yes.
I knew beautiful. She was beautiful. She walked out and my jaw dropped. I was like, this is the most beautiful person I've ever seen. Her outfit was on point. Her skin on point. Makeup on point. Hair on point. I was like, oh my gosh. I couldn't even imagine what you were feeling knowing that you just loved her so much when you were younger.
And then to see her mom, daughter, and son there was really cool. I felt bad because I was staring at them, but it's so weird when you see people on social media, on TV. Mm-hmm. So we waited online. I said to you, I need a picture just with me and Candace. Yeah. Like, I need this.
Fine. If I was in the first picture anyway, I would have gotten cropped out. Which I said to Candace Parker. I was like, my wife had to go with you alone or else I would have been cropped out of that.
And she laughed. Picture. She got a kick out of that. Yes. I also told her that I painted my room Tennessee orange because of her. And she said, thank you for telling me that. I don't even know if she was really hearing everyone that was talking to her because so many people were. That has to be a stressful job for her. But I appreciated how nice she was. And it was not a long interaction by any means. But I had my arm around Candace Parker.
I know. I thought I was never going to see you again. When she walked out that door, I was like, ooh, I'm in trouble.
I was shaking for probably an hour after that because the adrenaline of building up the courage to say what I wanted to say to her. I get very stressed when I meet people I admire. retire, and damn, that was stressful, but really cool.
It was a great start to the day. It was a good omen heading into the Iowa-South Carolina game. And we can't forget episode 17, where you read your Facebook message to Candace Parker. Now for the moment we've all been waiting for.
This is where Candace Parker retiring early is also hurting me, because I thought I was going to get away with not having to ever read this note, and I honestly regret even telling you about it.
Well, we're here, and if you've been a listener to the pod from the very beginning, you know that one, Danielle loves Candace Parker, and you know two, that she wrote her a letter, a Facebook message when she was younger, and she agreed that when Candace Parker retired, she would read that letter aloud on our podcast. So Danielle, please tell us when you wrote this letter. What was the date?
I was a sophomore in high school to begin with. Not embarrassing at all. It was sent February 11th, 2008 at 6:12 p.m.
Start it off for us.
Well, here we go. Hey, I'm watching you play Rutgers right now. Exclamation, 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 exclamation.
No, why so many?
I don't know. I am not crazy, but I am a sophomore in high school. Of
course not.
And I just wanted you to know that you are my idol. Another 4 exclamation points.
4 more.
Yep. I hope your knee is feeling better, and I love watching you play, ... I'm going to write you a letter soon, and I really hope you get it. Exclamation point.
Did you write her a personal letter?
I do not remember. I do remember creating reports on her. I doubt I sent them to her. Maybe I wrote the letter, not really sure, but I said I was going to. Oh, and I'm also doing a report on you for graphic design. We have to write an article like a magazine, exclamation, exclamation. I have also done other school projects about you, exclamation. Once again, I really hope you don't think I'm crazy, but I've been wanting to write something to you in so long, but I was pretty intimidated, LOL. Okay, I'm going to go watch the game now. Halftime is almost over, ... Good luck, and I really hope you get this.
That is so sweet. How does it feel to read it out loud?
Like I said, just slightly embarrassing. I was looking at her Facebook profile when I pulled this back up, and it's pretty much non-existent. No photos, very private. I wouldn't be surprised if she just deleted it. But I came across the cancel friend request button, so I guess I also sent her a friend request that night back in 2008.
And she didn't accept it?
No, and my message just says sent. It doesn't say read, so I don't even know if she ever read the
I'm sure
message.
She did.
Yeah, she probably thought, wow, this girl is psycho.
No. I mean, the fact that you had to say multiple times that you weren't crazy probably indicated that maybe it was a little bit, but I appreciate the fandom. I would be so honored to receive a message where someone was so complimentary of me and wishing me good luck on my knee injury. That is so sweet.
And when I think about high school kids now, I'm like, they're just kids. So I have to give myself some grace there.
Yes.
I would reach out to Candace Parker again and word it slightly differently.
What would you say now?
Maybe we can invite her on the pod and get to know her a little more.
Ooh, what a dream. Your invitation is out there, Candace Parker. We hope this gets to you more than Danielle's message on Facebook did. Accept our friend request. Come be on the pod. Love to interview you. We love you, Candace Parker. Congratulations on your retirement. Can't wait to see what's next.
Switching gears, let's go all the way back to episode 2, where we talk about grief and your dad.
January is a hard month for me. I experience a lot of grief in January and think a lot about my dad in January. Mm-hmm. This week is his death anniversary. He passed away 2 years ago from a really aggressive and rare type of cancer, and I miss him.
Yep. Yeah. I miss him too.
It's just so hard. I think it would be nice to take some time to talk about why I love my dad.
Of course. Yes. Everyone deserves to know your dad on some sort of levels.
So growing up, my dad was part of everything sports-wise and everything outside of sports as well. He had this passion about him. Like, he was so into everything. And when he supported you, he was going to support you full force, and he was going to give you a huge bear hug, and he was going to scream for you. Those are the things that I now miss so much. Just like his huge presence that he had, both a physical presence, and then obviously we've been living here and he was in New Jersey, and like just the support that he gave with his words and how he would talk. But all growing up, he coached all three of us kids. He took a different strategy with coaching all of us. He knew what we needed. Him and my sister would fight like crazy.
Sounds about right.
And they would just go at it. And then with me, like, I'm a little bit more sensitive. I'm a lot more sensitive. And he would just make sure that I was trying my best, and he would meet me where I was. And he was never too hard on me because he knew that I needed more of a pat on the butt than a kick in the butt. And I think that's what also made him such a good coach with others. He got really into batting instruction, and it was his passion. He was great technically with the girls he worked with, but I think what made him such a great coach to them was that he saw them and he would ask them how they were doing, and he would cater each session to what they needed. Even at his funeral, like the amount of young women there, he had an impact on their life, was a part that I didn't always get to see, and to see it was really, really cool. When I think about my own story, when I came out to my dad at the batting cages. And I was so nervous to tell him. I was like crying, obviously, because I cry over everything. I told him like, hey, I'm dating someone, they're a girl. And he just hugged me and was excited for
awesome.
me. If you're going to come out, that's exactly how you want someone to meet you. As I think about us doing this podcast, I've been thinking about him so much because he loved talk radio. Growing up, I would listen to Howard Stern with him all the time. Totally inappropriate for me to be listening to Howard Stern growing up, but I would be listening with him and he just loved it. And I think if he knew about this podcast, one, I think he would be like calling us every week, trying to see if he could like get on. And then I think he would just be so excited. He loved women's sports. He loved all sports, and he loved women's sports and just would have been so supportive. And then finally, he loved you. When he met you, he was like, okay, I'm done talking to you, Carolyn. Where's Danielle? And let me talk to her.
He, to that point, like, I always felt super comfortable around your dad and loved your dad. When we first started dating, your dad would randomly text me, love you, period. And at first I was like, was that supposed to go to me? I was a little confused at first, just wasn't used to something like that. And I miss those texts and I miss your dad. Obviously wish he could still be here. And earlier you mentioned him really being passionate about batting coaching. And I remember he was very ill. And we were at his house and he was on his iPad looking at batting videos, asking me how to screen record on the iPad. So I was helping him with that, but he, till the end, was still coaching as much as he could. And that just really shows how much he loved the women and girls he coached, just the impact he had on them. We all miss him. And I'm sorry you're going through that this week, and always, but especially I know this week is hard.
And grief is just an interesting thing. It demands to be felt. And if you don't feel it, it'll come back and scream at you. So I'm just really trying to feel it all. Let's get into something lighter from episode 4, where we talk about Michael Porter Jr., his comments about women's basketball, and our reaction. Recently, our beloved Nuggets, our Denver Nuggets, one of their players, Michael Porter Jr.
Oh, don't even want to give him more credit where credit isn't due and say his name.
I know. He went on a podcast and the interviewer was asking him about how he was wearing the Stewie 2s, Brianna Stewart's shoes.
Yep.
And the interviewer was really setting him up to be like, yeah, so you're wearing these shoes. How else do you support women? And he just went off about pretty much how he doesn't. He compared the talent of women to the talent of the best ping pong player. He said that ping pong players are paid based on what people want to watch. And then he said, females want the same treatment, but it's a different sport. They're not packing out arenas and their TV deals aren't the same. You can't pay them the same thing, but there should be a way for them to make a little bit more money. Well, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for your very intelligent take. It is so clear that you've never watched women's basketball before. It is so clear you threw on those Stewie 2s because you're a Puma athlete and someone told you to do it. It is so infuriating to hear men, and men who should know better, say things like this all the time and think they're being supportive and just not. Yes.
Mentioning how maybe it would be more excited if they lowered the rims to watch them dunk. Meanwhile, this man is 6'8". All I ever see him do is shoot the three.
Yes.
He doesn't go down low. He doesn't do anything. He just shoots threes. Every time the ball is in his hand, it's going up.
And I just think to myself, like, how lucky you are that you were born a boy and that our society happens to celebrate at this moment in time the talent of men and not celebrate as much the talent of women. Although I do think that's changing. And how lucky he is to have a mom who supported him through his back surgeries, to have an NBA deal where they have trainers who can give you the best rehab that you could ever ask for. And I think this is a bigger problem about how men are perceived in society and how women are perceived in society. And for some reason, we place a higher value, and it's not just because people find it more interesting, because we're seeing time and time again when women's college games are put on TV and there's an NBA game put on TV, people are tuning into the women's game. So you cannot say it's about money because we're proving that we can make the money. So what you're not, well, not you personally, Danielle, what people are not going to say, it's that they value men more than women. And I even had it myself for a while, right? Like, it's almost like this internalized sexism that we grow up with where we value men's opinions more. I've valued men's opinions more. And it's part of the society that we grow up in, and we have to do this part in dismantling it.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. From episode 27, where we discuss our take on partners in a relationship and how they differ. The other thing is there's no running water, like I said, so you don't shower for a few days.
Yeah.
We did camp next to a river, and you, me, and Meg would literally go in the river with a bar of soap.
Yes.
And just, rinse off every night. And it was
Get the
very
important
peaceful
parts.
and fun.
Is that your least favorite part, the dirty part? Because I don't mind being dirty at all.
I know you don't.
I could be a stinky gal forever.
And you know me, if I shower twice a day, it's a good day. I don't shower twice every day, but I at least shower once every day, and not showering really not my favorite.
You aim for a twice a day shower. That would be your ideal.
Yes.
I aim for a no time a day shower.
Yeah, you're really revealing a lot about yourself on this episode.
I just like to be stinky. I don't know why. I think showers are a waste of time. I know that's a really unpopular opinion, but I know there's other stinky gals out there.
There's
like
definitely
me.
Listeners who would agree with both of us. So.
Yeah. Let us know if you are a stinky gal or a clean gal.
I wonder if it's a couple rule. Like, is there someone in a couple who really likes to shower and another person who would rather just not shower ever?
We do have these couple things
with
where
like
this happens.
cereal, a lot of milk or not a lot of milk we've talked about. Or are you a loud puker or a silent puker?
Okay. What kind of cereal person are you? Do you put a lot of milk or a little bit of milk?
I put a lot of milk.
Yeah. You drench it and then want to slurp it up after. And I put just enough milk to get everything that there's none left. And then when we vomit, which this is TMI, but in every couple, there is a person who screams when they vomit, and then there's a person who is so super silent.
I didn't know this was a thing until I met you. Carolyn, you actually yell into the toilet. Like, I've seen you break blood vessels in your eyes by screaming into the toilet. It is the scariest thing. It's like the exorcism.
I know.
Early,
it's like a demon coming out.
Early in our dating life, you got a virus. You were living at your mom's at the time, and I was going to sleep over that night, and you started throwing up, and you were like, you gotta go.
I was like, you can't see me like this. My mom is here to take care of me, and I just can't have you here while I scream into the toilet.
And I don't make noise when I puke. So now we need to know if you're in a relationship.
And even if you're not in a relationship, let us know if you like to shower or you don't like to shower. Because if you're not in a relationship and you like to shower, then you need to find the person who doesn't like to shower, and that's your perfect match.
I would prefer that you showered.
If you are a loud vomiter, you should put on your dating profile that you're looking for a soft vomiter, because I think those two pairs make a good couple.
Soulmates.
All right. From episode 46, where we talk about Marta's mom. And as I said last week, I'm so happy for Marta to get her championship. It's been way too long. She's 38 years old. Her mom was there.
I saw the videos of her mom in the stands. So cute.
First time seeing her play in the United States. She looks exactly like Marta.
Literally, little Stregonona Marta.
Hold on, I love that.
Just watching her.
Stregonona Marta.
It was so cute.
She was little Stregonona Marta and so happy. And then happy tears at the end, which a mom crying happy tears for her daughter. Yeah, that's going to send me over the edge. So congratulations to Marta and the Orlando Pride, your 2024 NWSL champions.
Let's end with something more heartwarming from episode 30, where we give each other gold medals.
I want to ask you a question that I saw on Sesame Street.
Why were you watching Sesame Street?
I don't know. It came up on my Instagram, okay?
I was going to say, we don't have kids and you weren't babysitting anyone.
It must be in my algorithm because my algorithm is all Olympics and it is related to the Olympics.
Okay, fair.
So it was a conversation with Elmo and the question was, if you could medal in something that wasn't a sport, what would it be? And so I want to ask you that, and I want you to describe it for yourself and then also describe it for me, and I'll do the same.
This is a hard one because I don't think I'm really good at anything.
Danielle, that's sad. There are so many things that you're great at. You need to do some soul searching.
I wanted to say cooking, but I'm not good enough of a cook to do that. So
I think you are great at cooking.
Well, thank you.
You're intuitive. You take your time. You try new things. I think I would definitely give you a medal in cooking.
Thank you. My number 2 would be snuggling.
Snuggling. I mean, Danielle, you are not wrong. You get the gold medal in snuggling.
Thank you. So yeah, those are my 2. I know you asked for 1, but
I also have 2.
Just didn't think I was like superb at cooking, so I didn't know if I could do that. I know I'm a great cuddler.
Wow, that's a great one. Okay, do you want me to do mine, what I would do for myself, and then we'll do for each other?
Yes.
What I would definitely get gold in is dessert eating.
Wow.
If there was a contest for how many desserts you could eat in a year, I'm winning it.
Yes, I can see this. I didn't even think of this one for you, but I'm like, wow, that was a missed opportunity.
I have never met a dessert I don't like.
This is true.
And I will eat it.
I can attest.
I will have a dessert breakfast. I will have a dessert lunch. I will have a dessert dinner.
When Aunt Joanne, your Aunt Joanne, makes crumb cake, it is game over for everyone because you will take that home. And every morning for as many days as we have pieces, you are eating that with your coffee.
And I feel like that's control for me to just have one a day, because what I really want is 3 a day.
Yep.
Number 2 is my ability to go down rabbit holes. If something piques my interest, I will spend the next hour, 4 hours, 4 days learning every single thing I can about it. Yes. I don't know why I do that. I want to know the dirty details. I want to go on Reddit and I want to read what people are saying. I want to know what the anonymous family member is saying. I go down rabbit holes.
Yeah. And I think you could flip that to your curiosity.
Yes.
So you would win a gold medal in being curious.
What would you say I would win a gold medal in?
So this might be a little hard to explain. I think your ability to, 1, meet others where they are, and 2, I feel like you always know what other people need and you're willing to take your wants and needs in that moment aside to provide that. And I just think it's really admirable. I think this weekend even, I always notice it when we're with friends. So I think that you would have a gold medal for that, but I don't know what to name it.
That's really sweet.
Well, it's true. I just don't know I don't have a word for it.
It might be codependency.
No.
My ability to look at a person and be like, I think I know what they need and I'm going to try to provide it to make them happy. But don't do
that.
Okay.
Like
I won't do that.
I'll just give a brief example. We had to pack up camp early and decide to drive home Saturday night because the weather was horrendous and everyone was just hiding in their cars. And we were like, this is not fun anymore. We could have just hopped in the car after we had our stuff done and gotten out of there because we were miserable at that point and wanted to leave. And we had met new people on that trip. You were like, we need to help them. You said that to me and we went up and you said, how can we help? We helped break down their camp. And I just think it's moments like that. And I'm like, wow, Carolyn just is really solid and really kind. I wish I could be more like that.
Oh, that's really sweet. Thank you for noticing that.
Of course.
Do I get to give you yours now?
Yes. What would you give me a medal for?
Well, I have 2. First, giggling. You get the gold medal in giggling because once you start giggling, I then start giggling.
It's game over.
And you never stop. You just get a case of the giggles and it goes on forever.
It's really been terrible in certain situations of my life because sometimes it happens at really inappropriate times. It's happened in lots of classes growing up where I had to bite on my lip so hard that I would like almost put a hole in my lip to stop the giggling. So I definitely agree with that.
And then my second one that I wrote down, which you said snuggling, but I'm saying love and affection.
Oh,
Your ability to provide love and affection is unmatched. It's really your love language of being with a person, letting them know how much you love them, and then making sure that you show it in numerous ways. It's why I love you.
I love you too. Thank you.
That was really nice. Sesame Street knows where it's at. And finally, my favorite clip of this year from episode 37, where we discuss superlatives. So we decided that we were going to give out superlatives to the WNBA.
But before we do this, I want to know what superlative you won.
What superlative?
In high school.
This is so rude.
I need you to share with the people what you won.
Okay, so I think I won most athletic.
What do you mean you think?
From what I remember, I think I did. Did you win any?
Yes, most athletic.
I think I did.
I don't think I know.
Okay, pretty sure I won most athletic.
I need to fact check this. Where's your yearbook?
I don't know. My mom definitely has it. Someone from my high school can let me know.
Okay, well, this is Danielle speaking. I know I won most athletic. Carolyn, what do you know you won?
I know I won. I can't even say it. I know I won most comfortable. Why does that make you laugh so
because
much?
What does that mean?
It means I'm wearing exactly what I wore now to high school. I wore sweatpants and I wore t-shirts and I had my hair up probably in this exact bun. Nothing has changed. And it was pretty much an award that said, there's a best dressed and you're not it.
Wow.
You are the opposite of best dressed.
I love that. I don't even think my high school had most comfortable. That is too funny. Wow. What a year. We hope you enjoyed the recap, and we can't wait to share more of Women's Sports Weekly with you, our listeners.
That's it for this week. We will see you next week on Women's Sports Weekly. In the meantime, watch Women's Sports. Rate and subscribe to the pod on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Share the podcast with your friends. Keep sending us topics you want us to cover on Instagram at Women's Sports Weekly Pod. Thanks for joining us.